I planted some seeds, and then that was the beginning of everything. So I'll just tell you that, like, I'm not, oh, let me just click off that. Okay. So I do things the way that has evolved for me, and that works for me. And this is hopefully going to be helpful to you, but you don't need to feel as though you've got to do everything the way I am doing it. One of the things that I tell people that's so important is that you really have to find your own seedling system and the way that works for you, because everyone's home is different, everybody's needs in their garden, it's all very different. So just take whatever I'm going to give you, but make it your own, change things, and then I'll give you some advice throughout the hour and 10 minutes I think we have. But first, I always like to say, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is my worst nightmare, having people come into my basement and watch me under fluorescent lights. I'm like, this just, just so you know, this is me for letting you really into the core. I must really like gardening to let you guys do this. So what I would like to just start off by saying is that you really have to get dirty and embrace dirt. Like you have to embrace gardening and the seedling setup. You're not going to have, your space isn't going to be clean, and it's not going to be picture perfect. Your seedlings won't always come out great. Things will evolve and change, but that's all right. That's part of the journey. And I let my kids come down in this space, and some of my best memories are of us getting dirty together and making a mess. So like, just embrace that. Know that you're not trying to have a space that is going to be photographed and put in a magazine. It's not that. It's really yours, and you just have to own it and accept that. And I'll tell you that by the end, it might be a little clean now on my floors, but that's only because I swept. By say August, I could grow tomatoes out of my own basement floor. So like, it really gets kind of, I definitely embrace the dirt. But so with that said, I'll just go into a couple of things that I think are just important things that I've learned and has helped me become the gardener that I wanted to be. And so one of the things that I never realized when I started gardening was that I was growing someone else's garden. I only bought what was in the nurseries and was being sold to me in the stores, and they only sell profitable items. They only sell to you what what's going to sell for them. So once I started growing things from my own seeds, or saving seeds, buying seeds, exchanging seeds, my like a whole world opened up to me, and I'm not even talking about all the different types of tomatoes there are, because there are so many that seedling shops don't sell you. So like, really stop growing someone else's garden, figure out what you want to grow, and let that shape what you're going to grow, and really just become your have your own space. So, and it's like every year, one of the things that we do is we grow something new every year. So this year we're growing okra. We'd never done that last year. I forget what it was, but every year we try something new. And I encourage you to just try new things, and even try saving your own seeds. And I started saving seeds only a couple years ago, and we grew torch sunflowers last year from seeds we saved, and my kids thought that was pretty cool. So it's fun. And so what I want to be able to tell you is that this is so much easier than you think. You don't need to have two setups like I do. You guys can probably see that. That works for me. You can have a smaller one or a bigger one. You can have three. This just works for me. And I think that it's important to say that, because I don't want you to think that this is your only option, because you can do shorter shelves. I do the 4 feet because it works better for my space. I'm also down in the basement. So like, it's okay. I can get dirty. I can have the space to myself. But if you're doing this in another area of your home, you may only have 2 shelves that are 2 feet wide, and that's fine too. So everything I'm going to tell you about, they do sell them, the shop lights shorter, and you could just, really make that your own seedling setup. But it's much easier, because once you set this up, I don't do anything to it. I mean, I've had this going for like 7, 8 years, and I don't have to do anything else to it. I plug it in, I start it up each February, which I look forward to, and that's it. I don't have to do anything else. Um, and also ask yourself what your garden, what you want out of this space. So my garden, because I have kids and I also work with kids in schools and stuff, my gardens have always been about learning. So I'm not trying to grow perfect, beautiful gardens. I have habitats, different areas in my city garden. I'm in Rosendale, so it's not. I don't have a huge amount of space. I make it feel like I have a huge amount of space, but so you just have to know what kind of garden you're trying to grow, because you will grow a lot of seedlings this way, and you can try new things out and have some fun with it, but just have a goal. Just know what kind of garden you are trying to have. And ask yourself, I always ask myself, what am I going to grow here that, or do in this space that my kids can learn in? And then they help me start the seedlings. They also help me harden things off, go outside. So these are all things I have thought about along the way, but I didn't have anyone to kind of tell me that in the beginning, because I was kind of growing everything. But now we grow what we want, what works for us outside in the space that we live in. We want vegetables, but we also want flowers. I also want native stuff, and I also want to welcome wildlife and have bees and monarchs and that sort of thing. So my kids save the milkweeds, the seeds from that, and we start those again. So it's full circle. It's really kind of fun. But anyway, that's knowing what you want. And then also, is it more for nourishment? Is it more for beauty? Is it more for peace? What is it you want out in your garden outside? So you know what you want to grow and start inside. Otherwise, you'll start everything if you're like me and start everything. And also, so the I'm in this. Okay, so this setup I will go through is really, it worked so well that we do this in schools now, because we just do their shelving on wheels instead of mine is stationary. But I'll talk about that as we go through. And I do want to talk about pros and cons of the seedling setup and having it in your home. The pros are you get time alone. I get down here, obviously my kids come down sometimes, but it's nice to be able to have some time alone where I'm getting dirty. I'm touching the seeds. I'm really investing in my garden in February when, if you're in New England, if you're in Boston like me, you aren't digging in February, you're digging snow. But I also, I always tell people that gardeners live longer, happier lives. They really do. And so that's a big pro. And anything that can get you to be happier in your garden and appreciate your garden outside by starting seeds indoors, I just encourage it. And it's much easier than you realize. So I start my day here or I end it here. So it's definitely, this is my calming place, even though it looks dirty and terrible. It's a basement, but it's I can focus on the watering, the pruning, which seeds I'm going to plant, how many. And I'm also someone who I grow a lot of stuff for other people. I give probably 75% of what I grow, I give it away. And that brings me a lot of joy. And that's just something that brings other people's joy too, but mainly me. So I'm being very selfish there. But and it's connecting with every little seed and connecting with nature, connecting with things that, especially in February and March, that are not as easy to connect with. And it's especially when you need it most. The other thing I would say is that you save a lot of money. I know, seedlings are very expensive, which is, saving seeds. Seeds are pretty cheap, actually. And starting from seeds saves you a ton of money, lots and lots of money. Because if you go into, nurseries and stuff, you can, if you're like me, you can drop like $200 on just seedlings. So this, sometimes I've grown like 400 seedlings or up to 800. You can go as much as you want, but you'll definitely save money. Plus, when you're buying unique seeds, you're keeping those seeds active and in use in the gardening community. You're keeping those seeds around for other people and keeping them around for a long time. That is very important because I don't know the exact amount, but it's staggering how many seeds we've lost. So I encourage you to really reach out to places that get good seeds from really unique growers. They work really hard to save these seeds for us. And I feel like we really owe them for doing that. And we need to make sure that we are purchasing seeds from the, the seed companies online. Like, so I buy them all over because I search them out for things that I want to grow. So Botanical Interest is great. Seed Savers Exchange is great. Baker Creek, Johnny's, Rose 7 is another one. I bought a couple from them this year. And if you look at their stories, it's amazing why they're growing and what they're saving seeds for. Hudson Valley is another one. Plus, just try saving seeds on your own. I can't even, that's one of the things about the Trustees a couple of years ago. They had a great presentation and it inspired me to start saving some seeds. And I did, and we saved them with some kids in the classroom. And, it's just spectacular. You just don't even realize that these kids one of the children just didn't even know that a little watermelon seed, he said, that becomes a watermelon like that. And they don't connect the dots, even though he's eating watermelon, it has seeds in it. They didn't really connect the dots. And then he planted those seeds and grew a watermelon plant. I mean, it wasn't a watermelon that we could eat because it was so small, but he saw it and was very proud of it and took pictures of it. He drew, and it's really kind of amazing. We're just so disconnected from the seeds in our world. Plus, another pro for me is you get to choose what you want to grow. There's so many different types of flowers. Oh, Floret Flowers is another one that I purchased seeds from. They have, her journey is amazing if you can go and read about it. She's put a lot of effort into finding very unique seeds from different parts of the world. And I buy a lot of flower seeds from her, which have been spectacular. So I encourage you. But I'm finding out now you have to buy your seeds in December, not even in January anymore from her because she's very popular now. So, and, but a lot of nice things is that things are not always native. So just try to mix in native stuff so know your environment, know where you live, try to keep some of that stuff in your yard. Let's see. Oh, and the other thing that I love, I told you, I share my seedlings with everybody. I mean, it's just, we have sold them for fundraisers for schools so they could have money for gardens in their schools. But I share them with everyone. My neighbor speaks Spanish. I don't speak Spanish and she doesn't speak English, but we exchange plants. We over the fence, I came home from something with my kids last year, and there was a giant bucket, big thing of dirt on my steps. And I was just so excited. I was like, yay, what's that? My kids are like, you're out of your mind. It's a bucket of dirt. And they said, no, look. And there are bulbs. She had bulbs in there for me because she had noticed earlier in the year, I had looked at her cannas and thought they were lovely. So she gave me some of those, which was like, great, all because I gave her a seedling. I gave her a tomato seedling or something. And the exchange started there if you several years ago. My other neighbor is Albanian. We also don't speak the same language, but we speak gardening language. So we then exchanged. She gave me these amazing onions, and I gave her other seedlings and different things that we like. So it's we can't even communicate with words, but we're exchanging things that are so valuable to us through the year, through growing the whole growing season, which I find to be inspiring and wonderful. And I feel very lucky that I live in an area of Boston where I get to do that, where not everybody's growing the same thing. So I don't know where you live, but I encourage you to grow extra seedlings and just share them. You have seeds, they give you extra seeds. There's no difference than me growing 4 or growing 10. And then I may only want 2. So you will have extra. And I people, the only con I have is that then everyone will watch your seedlings because they're so great if you use a setup at home, and they will expect them every year. That's not really a con, but that's the only con I could come up with. I have never once regretted having a seedling setup. So that's what I'll say about that. I've tested different ways over 15 years. I've been doing this. I've just, it's something that I've tried it on windowsills. I've tried in different areas of my house. I've tried different lights, different smaller setups, all different things. And it's not this setup I have here. This would cost you definitely over $500 if you were to buy it. So it is something where you have these setups are super expensive. I mean, I actually think this could probably go for one of these. It might even be $800. So one of these is about $210. And I'm going to show you all the pieces that I've purchased and I will tell you where to buy these things, where I found them most, a little bit more inexpensively. Now I do try to buy things locally, but a couple things are cheaper at a Home Depot or Lowe's. But that said, my local Ace guy here in Rosendale matched the price for me, because especially when we purchase stuff for schools, this is something that we want them to feel like they're a part of the community as well. And so purchasing from Ace or even from Allendale is close by. I buy things as much as I can from these places. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and talk about each thing and I'll start with the shelving unit that I purchased. So and I have given you pictures of this in a PDF that I think you'll get a link to later. So that's not, you don't have to, I mean, you could take screen grabs and stuff like that, but I think that I'll just kind of talk to about each particular thing. So the waterproof metal shelf, it definitely needs to be metal. Now this is pretty sturdy. So it's definitely pretty big because I do a lot of seeds. I do a lot of seedlings. So I'm going to show you, let's see, I should have figured out a way to bring you a little closer. But for now, I have 3 lights on the shelves. So you do not need that. 2 lights per shelf is great. That's all you really need. The only reason I have that is because because of the pandemic, I had to take some of the lights out of the schools. And I ended up just like, I might as well just make my seedling center a little bit brighter. So you do not need that. That's all I'm saying. I know you can see the 3 there. But you do need shelving that can get wet. You also need a shelf that you can hang the hooks down from. And you're going to be changing the height of your light fixtures. So you could see up here, they're much more shallow. They're much closer to the seedlings. There's a heating mat and the lights, the fans, and I'll talk about all that stuff. But you definitely need a shelf that you can change the height on the light fixtures, and you need to be able to hook the light fixtures to it. That is so important because your seedlings, as they grow, you need different spaces. You're going to need to move them around. You're going to need adjust the heights. I also don't put all 5 shelves, even though it's a 5-shelf unit. I put 4. So you can see each shelf, it's shorter, and then it gets a little bit more like 8 inches on the next one, then 12, and so on. So you could see when it gets down lower, because your tomatoes are going to grow pretty tall. Not everything will grow tall, but your tomatoes definitely will, and you're going to need that space. So the shelving unit is very important. This one I like, it's 4 feet wide because I use the 4-foot wide light fixtures, which I will tell you about next, because but the cheapest place that I have found that shelving unit was for around $70 at Lowe's. So don't just purchase wherever you find it, because they can try to get you for like $150 in some places. So Lowe's was the cheapest that I have ever found for those. And that's what I still purchased for the schools. Again, I purchased the ones for the schools that roll so that they can clean under it and move under it. But for my home, these are stationary and I don't have to move them. The shop lights are from Home Depot, the first ones I purchased. But again, these for the schools, Ace, the local Ace hardware store, got the same exact ones and matched the price. So just because I had started out with these, I purchased them at Home Depot, and they were only, I think, $11 there. So it was pretty great. And I'll bring you in a second. I'll bring you up closer so you can see these items. I just want to go through it quickly, and then I'll carry the computer over and you can see them a little bit better. The light bulbs, there's a lot of information online about bulbs and things. It's very tricky. When I first started with these bulbs, these are just regular fluorescent bulbs. They are not the LED. They're not grow lights. They're just regular daylight bulbs. I started working with that and it worked. So I didn't change anything. I know that the LED, and a lot of these bulbs I haven't had to change. And I've had this going for at least 8 years. The LED bulbs are tricky because some of them that are cheaper, people don't realize this, those cheaper bulbs are, you need more light. So you will need to leave them on longer. So you'll end up with very leggy seedlings, which is kind of a bummer. So some people have purchased those not knowing that you need to keep the lights on a little longer. But then the more expensive LED ones, I think that's it's something like you need less time for those higher quality LED bulbs, but they're more expensive. So those actually need less time. Now, I can't speak to those because I have not used them. I haven't had to change my setup ever. So if I ever have to, then I will learn a little bit more about that. But that's really kind of a tricky thing because when I started this, I did not have the information for the LED bulbs. They're much more popular now. But yes, that's something that you would have to do a little more research on. The seed starting kits that I use. This is very important to me because I grow so many and I don't have a lot of time. So I want it to be easy. Everything about this setup, it's super easy. I don't do anything, I mean, really, except plant seeds and water them. And that's it. So once you have this set up and you have these items, you don't have to do anything else. One of the seedling starter kits that I like is, I don't know if you can see this. I love these from Gardeners. It is a plastic, it's very sturdy. Can everyone see that? It has the plastic bottom. Okay. I'll show you here. So it's so easy. This wicks the water up. It's the capillary mat. And you put this. So there's, you see look at how dirty this is. I should have washed this. I'm sorry. So dirty. You see, everything's easy. I don't wash. I don't do anything super hard. I make this, it's so easy. But so I do wash them. Actually, I do wash them before I start new seeds in them, just so you know. I will wash them in a touch of bleach. But this mat goes down into the water. So you pour the water in, and the water is in this plastic bottom. You put this is on top of that, which is great. You fill the soil in. I'm going to show you the soil that I like to use. So you put this together like that and over this. Okay. Now, one of the things that I love about this is there are 24 cells. They have the ones that are 12, but I like 24 because I do, after we transfer and I transplant all those little seedlings, I transplant them into plastic yogurt cups. I don't buy any cups, any of the plastic potting cups ever. We always, and this is great with kids, they always have their own. They can bring these in, or there's extra, you always have them. You just cut the slits at the bottom. But these, if you take 24 of these, 24 cells, 24 of these, they all fit into a plastic bin that I'm going to show you that I put pebbles at the bottom of. And it has handles on that bin, and I'll show it to you when I pull it out. That is so easy. You have 24 from your cells, 24 fit into your plastic bin. And this matters because that's where they're going. You are then going to harden your seedlings off, going in and outside for the first several days. You want to have a sturdy container for your seedlings after you move them from your cells. And you will put them in those yogurt cups, and they all fit side by side. And then like I said, I give away 70% of my seedlings to neighbors. I do exchanges. Someone mentors me for one thing, I give them seedlings. And this way, I don't care. I'm just giving away a plastic yogurt cup. I'm not missing any nice pots or anything like that. So that really works out well. That's my system. It works for me. It's great. You may want to start your seeds directly in these, and that's okay too. But it's really tricky because I've tried several different types of seeds, pots, and there's peat pots. There's ways to make pots, which I love. I've actually seen newspaper ones. I've even seen toilet paper roll, seedling cups, and it's amazing. It's great. You can use anything. One of the things that I do love the cow manure pots. It was tricky because those did not work as well for me, but I will tell you they worked for me after, so I used them for some of my plants. They worked for me after I cut into those because it takes a longer period of time for these to break down, because they say you can plant them right outside, and I did that. They did not grow, and I did tests. They did not grow exactly side by side. The tomatoes did not grow as well as the ones that I did in the plastic pots, but they did after I cut into them, because I think that it was a little bit thicker and I had to cut into it. So that's just a trick. My tomatoes on those plants were not as good as the ones in the plastic pots, which is why I tried to do these. Plus it's easy and it's cheap, and I'm very much about recycling and reusing. And when I work with kids, this is one of the things that we recycle and we reuse. So that said, we take that and those fit nicely, and I'll get that plastic bin in a minute and show you that when I take you over. I will say that the fans are very important to have. Right now, I don't have the fans directly hitting any of my plants right now because they're still very young. I've only started them a few weeks ago. So you gradually will increase the speed on the fans. And I'm going to show you because you can buy them. They're only like $10. They're not expensive. And you want the ones that clip on, and you want the ones that at least have 2 speeds. So 2 or 3 speeds is really ideal, because then you can, as the seedlings get stronger, you want to be able to make them stronger, because when you put them outside, those tomatoes need to have something in this environment that's preparing them for the environment out there, or any flowers, any of them, because we, tomatoes are the things that are the trickiest because they really have to be strong. Otherwise, they become leggy. You'll have to bury them deeper out in your garden. Not a lot of people in Boston can bury their stuff very deep, or dig holes too deep for tomatoes. So you really have to make sure that they're strong and sturdy and thick and can withstand wind and rain, especially if you plant them out at the end of May, because it's not always the best environment. So you have the fans to keep them strong. It also helps circulate for, sometimes you'll get some bugs. You just will. So one of the things that I have purchased, that these I love. You can make them. We've made them with kids at schools. It's just double-sided sticky tape. These are so great because I find them at Gardens Alive. I don't know if you know gardensalive.com. They're great. I love buying whatever I can from them because they're just so wonderful. I take these and put them, it's very easy. I stick them right in like this. And then I put that right in the pot like that, break it off because it's too tall. Usually that goes right in. Any bugs get stuck to this. And you will have some little bugs. It's, unavoidable, especially because in the back there, I have my vermicomposting bin. I don't know if you could see it. So I might get a few more bugs than other people might. So you may find you don't need these. I have found that they work wonders for me, and you'd be surprised how many little bugs you do catch on these things. It's kind of gross. Like, oh, but
excuse me, Kim.
Yeah.
Ask you a question. Where did you purchase the bug catcher thingy? Yeah.
Oh, do you know gardensalive.com?
No.
Okay, so gardens is one word, and then alive.
Okay.
So it's gardensalive.com.
Okay, spell live. Is it live or?
ALIVE.
Okay.
Because it's your gardens are alive. There are lots of little bugs and critters and stuff, is I think what they're trying to get at. These are great. You can probably get them on Amazon, but I choose to try to purchase from them because they, it's a much smaller company, but they're excellent.
Never knew about that.
Oh,
Great.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I buy a lot of different things from them, and they also will give you a lot of information, which is great. I read everything they mail to me because there's always extra stuff in there that I just don't even know about. So it's great. Okay, so then that is so fantastic. Okay, I want to talk. There's a lot to get to, so I apologize if I'm not answering everyone's questions. I will at the end, I promise. So the fans are important. The bug stuff, bug catcher. Okay, couple of the things. Water access is very important. I tried having my seedlings in different areas of my home. I had to carry water. I spilled water. It's just not smart. This is why, look, my basement is chilly sometimes, and it's not always ideal, but I put up plastic to keep my seedlings a little bit warmer. But the main thing is that I have access to get outside easily. So when I start to harden my seedlings off, you may not think of this when you first start your seedlings, but they get heavier and they get bigger. And it's difficult because I do sometimes 800 seedlings, 24 per bin. That's a lot to carry in and out of across my home, out the back door. This year I'm probably only going to do about 400, maybe 500 seedlings, but it adds up. It's a lot of work. And my children don't always want to help me do that. My husband definitely doesn't. He's like, oh, is it hardening off season already? Oh no. So this is great because right out this back door, I'm right outside. So it works really well for me. Water access right there. You have to water these plants a lot. And not so much when you're doing this, because this is great. This setup, you don't have to, you put the water in, you only have to water every couple days. You don't have to water as often. But when they're seedlings, they're bigger, they're drinking more, they're just like a kid. They need more liquid, they need more water. So being close to the water is very, very important in my opinion. And that took off because if you make this really hard for yourself, you're not going to do it. You're just, if it's too tricky or it's too dirty or if it's too messy, it's so easy to let these seeds die and not do it. So I grow so much and give so much away, all because this is easy. And I put it in the right spot. So choosing the right spot is really important. Timers also important. This is in your PDF that I have for you. The timer, just so that you don't have to come down and turn them on and turn them off every day. It as a timer, it turns on, and I'll go over how many hours in a minute. I'll go over how many hours I leave it on for. Power outlets. Okay, so my father's an electrician, so he always cringes when he comes and sees how many plugs I have plugged in this. He's like, but it's really not, it's not a hazard because I have everything hanging up off the floor. It's not in any water. Just be aware that you have to make sure that you've got the right outlets and they're plugged in how you want them to be plugged in and where. And if there's any excess of those plugs, I put them in that plastic bin that's there. You may not have a basement that is like this. So and you might have fewer wires. So that's another thing. I hang everything because I have my kids down here. And even when I'm in the schools, I make sure that that it's all tied up or secured in a way. It's a little bit trickier if you have a shelving unit that moves. So just because we have, that's kind of tricky when we go into some of the schools. But it's doable. It's still doable. It's fine. You'll have a few wires. Okay. So, and then I also do things, and I'll show you this too as we go along. I'm going to start to talk about a couple other specific things. I'm going to take you over. One of the things I did want to mention was the heating mats. You really have to read your seed packets. They give you a lot of great information on there, and they work really hard to know. I don't know how they know so much about every different type of seed. I'm always amazed, but I read the seed packets. Some seeds do not need warmth to germinate. Some need cold to germinate. Some need light, some don't need light. So read the packets. Not every seed is the same. So my mat that I have, I'm going to pick you guys up and bring you over. My heating mat. So let me know if you can, I think you can see this. So I have one really long one and I love it. That never moves. This is one long one. It never moves off this shelf and it's perfect. I wouldn't advise you to get one for every shelf, but I would say one of these is great. All of my seeds start up here. Everything starts up here, and that's on this mat. Now I have a couple mats that are smaller. Can you see? These are, the mats are just for each individual 24 cell unit here, like these. These don't need it obviously anymore because they started already to grow. But when they're little guys, they do need it. They need a little warmth. These do. I just started these, so they have not sprouted yet. But once they do, I will just take this mat out. This one I always leave up. So I think you can see that. And that on every other shelf, by the time they get down here and even down further, you won't need to keep the heat on them. It's just for when they're little. So that's important. Again, not every seed is created the same. So you may not need that heating mat. That is also in the PDF. Unfortunately, those are a little more pricey. I believe that one I bought at gardeners.com. I know that they sell them in many different places, and the prices are always different. They're across the board. They're so different. So just check and see and compare. Don't just buy something because, and sometimes the gardening stores don't always have the better prices. Go to Ace again. They're so great, and they find everything. I love my guy at Ace down there, and he does. He'll search out and find them, and he tries to give us a good deal on them. We bought a couple heat mats for the schools, and he made sure to give us ones that he thought was a good price, and then he gave us a discount on top of that too, which was great. All right. So we went through heating mats, and like, so one of the other things that we do with our kids in school, we don't buy watering. We have spray bottles, but then they like to spray each other quite a bit. So it's rare that the plants get watered, but that's all right. We water the plants with a sports water bottle from Poland Springs. And you're gonna think I'm crazy. Why is she spending so much time talking about this? This is, I'm gonna show you, is so easy to use. All right. Oh, here you go. I'll do this. It's super easy to use. And when you have little baby seedlings, now these guys are just looking a little sad today, but these are cucumbers. You don't want a ton of water, and it's just so gentle. So, and the kids, it really is great because you have to teach them how to be gentle sometimes with the seedlings. And they do it. It's amazing. They come in and just add a little bit of water. And when you have little baby seedlings, you do not want to pour a ton of water. The other good thing about this is if you can't reach the back, it's great because you can squeeze it and it could be a little more. I'm telling you, you don't have to buy anything. You just need a good sports water bottle, and that's it. Okay, so let me just put that
There
down.
was one question. I just want to make sure you referenced the PDF, and there was a question on whether the light fixtures you use are on that PDF. Or if there's
I thought they were.
guidance.
I think they are. Yes, they are. Yep, they definitely are.
Fabulous.
And
Thank you.
the only thing is that I'm not sure if I can update it because I have to go back and look at it. It's from I kind of whipped it together a little bit, but it might not have might not say that I got the best deal from Home Depot. That's the only thing. So maybe write that down now so you know. Those light fixtures were much cheaper at Home Depot. They were twice the price at Lowe's, just so you know. So when I say what those prices are, look for those prices because that shelving unit at Costco was twice the price as what it was on Lowe's. Now, yes, you're going to hop around. If you're going to buy a setup like this, yeah, you have to go to Lowe's, you have to go to Ace, you have to go here, you have to go there and get these items. But it's much cheaper if you can spend a little time hopping around like that. It's shocking. This was $65 or about $75, I think the shelving unit was. And it was twice that somewhere else. Now, right now, it might be a little trickier because everything seems to be on a boat in the middle of the Atlantic or something, but you should, if you wanted to wait, I think the prices will start to come back down to more along the lines of what I paid for it. So, but don't buy something that's twice the price because you can definitely find it somewhere else. They're cheaper. Okay. We talked about choosing the location in your home. Yes, easy access, being messy. And I can't stress this enough. Just embrace the mess. Don't try to clean up. Just make sure you choose a place. Like I said, I'll be growing tomatoes out of my floor for crying out loud. It gets so dirty down in here. I could grow, kale off my floor by the time it's August. But it's about this being easy. It's not about this being perfect. About being neat. It's not anyone else's space. It is mine and my seedlings and my kids and whoever you want to be in your space with you. That really is what it's about. It's the ease of it. So yeah, I keep a dustpan and broom down here. Yeah, I do. It's right there. I can see it from sitting here. I use it a little bit, but just embrace the messiness of it because it's almost like you're a kid again. So it's kind of funny that I play with dirt so much. Okay, we are breezing through this. I'm gonna show you a couple more things, take you over there, and then show you some of my seeds and seedlings. Okay, so one of the things that I'm really moved by when I I did this last year, and every time I talk to gardeners that are affiliated with the trustees, I mean, the trustees is amazing. We're so lucky that they do what they do, and that they gather people and give them land, and take land that needs healing and fixes it and gives it back to us is amazing. And one of the things that has inspired me was that I always feel is that if I'm growing something, it's almost my obligation to share it in my community. I have the kids at the schools, they start their own seeds, they start seedlings, and I always have them do, this one's for you, and this one is for someone else. So whatever you do for seedlings, I just encourage you to always do extra, because it's so easy. It's so easy.
Sorry, I see
and
a comment.
it's so easy
Yeah,
to
we're good.
give seedlings to other people. Like I said, we when we were little, when the kids were little, they would put them all in their little wagon and pull them down and just give out tomato seedlings to the neighbors and stuff. My neighbor on the other side, I didn't know. She's like, your garden is great, and I was like, oh, I'll give you some seedlings. She's like, oh, I've never planted anything before. I'm like, well, you can now. You're going to this year, and so it's everybody wants to grow a seed. They just don't know how to get started. So, and I always feel like you're not really growing a zinnia plant or a basil plant, you're growing joy, and you're growing inspiration, and you're growing, you're not really growing a tomato seedling, you're really growing a connection to your neighbor, just someone who's outside your circle, someone that you don't normally connect with. And now you have this amazing connection, and it's joyful. It's a positive connection. It's never negative. I mean, someone doesn't grow their tomato right. Well, you know what? You just say, great, I'll give you one next year too. I mean, there's nothing more positive and hopeful about that, anything like that. And this is, how I always tell people that, like, one seed grows into, you will start with just a couple seeds. I don't know if any of you have started seedlings or anything yet, but if you started just with a few, you will grow more. I promise that you are definitely going to grow more seedlings than you realize you are going to. The other thing I would say is, I'm going to show you that plastic bin that I have. This plastic bin is great because it holds 24 cups. So I'm going to get that and show that to you. And then we can take some questions and talk about some of the seeds. And I'll take you a little bit closer. Hold on. Oh, and I should show you. Okay. Also, I love this. I forgot to talk about soil. This is the soil I buy from Coast of Maine. They have great seed starting soil. This is a little bit pricier than you might get at Home Depot, but the reason why I like it is because it is it's also local. It's from Maine, but it's got the perfect lightness to it, and there's also nothing in it that I have to then compete with or fix later, because everything I do is organic out in my garden. And if you start to have something that has already has fertilizer or something in it that seedling is going to become dependent on, you have to make sure you're giving them that consistently. And I don't do that. I give them fish emulsion and other fertilizers, all natural and organic. So that's why you want to start with something that doesn't have any kind of amendments in it that you're not going to then give back to it once you start to bring this out into your garden. So that's why this one to me has always been great. They're very good. And I'll show you the fertilizer that I use as well. So hold on one sec. I forgot to have one of these pots. Let's see. In the process of washing these, that's why they're outside, but 24 of your yogurt cups will fit in here, and they fit 4 rows across. So 4. Okay. That's why that 24 cell matters, because then you have space for 24 more seedlings. Okay, so it goes from this 24 of those right into here. And I will also tell you that I put pebbles at the bottom of them, because sometimes, a lot of times, these will start to root out, and I don't like them to be rooting out into the plastic and into water. So I have a little bit of soil and I put the pebbles, and that just, it helps with drainage too as well, because I can just put water in the bottom and then they absorb it up from the bottom of the plastic cup. So this is important to me because I do so many seedlings. This may not matter as much to you. Can you see that? I think you can. But the handles, okay? I have to carry a bunch of these in and out when I'm hardening off my seedlings, okay? And it's just much easier. Again, easy. I'm trying to always be easy. And this is great because then you just take them out, you bring them outside, you bring them right back in, and they fit right on the shelf. So the same shelf, I'm going to move some of these. Okay, you can see this, I think, right? They fit perfectly. So by the time I transplant them into this, the cups, the yogurt cups, they will then fit on this shelf here, and they'll have more space to grow. Plus, this is just easy in and out. It's so much easier than you realize. Okay, so the other thing I would just mention is the seeds. We could talk a little bit if we have time about seeds. Just gonna make some space because I have my seeds that I do and how I organize those. I am very organized because I grow so many seeds. You may not need to be so organized, and that's okay. Yes, Neptune's harvest, I see that. I think then, did you read my mind? How did you know? Can you see it? How did you know? Neptune?
I also use it, so I assume that's where you were going.
Yeah, I was like, how did you know about my Neptune? So that is really great. I just dilute it down for seedlings. We didn't really talk much about fertilizer, but that is what I dilute it down. Very, very, very little. There's like barely anything in it. Maybe after 2 weeks, I'll add just a couple drops of diluted down Neptune's harvest. It's the one I put in the PDF. Then I gradually add a little bit more. And it is not, you don't want to overdo it with your seedlings. These guys, you put a lot of effort into growing them, and it's hard, it's hard for them to, they don't really need much, but just give them a little bit of fertilizer. I think it's a fish and seaweed one that I really like from Neptune's harvest. And I have to get some of that because now I'm going to need it. So I will talk to you just quickly because I think it's important to stay organized. I have all kinds of notes. I mean, I keep notes, I keep inspiration photos, all of that. But I'm going to show you. I have this worksheet in the PDF that I gave you guys. Can you see this? Is the only thing that I find that is hard about what I do. It's not even hard, but I write down everything I want to grow and I list it out. Then I write down when I'm supposed to sow it. And then when I do sow it, and then if there are any other little notes, like last year's, we had very little sun and a lot of rain, but I put down little notes so that I know, oh, did those zinnias do well last year? Or did that celosia grow well? But that cucumber, like my tomatoes last year were great, but someone else's wasn't down the street. My cucumbers were amazing, but not all of them. Why didn't this one do well or whatever? Any notes you might want to have. This is really just a great tool because then you know from year to year. So the worksheet I gave you, all you have to do is just change it every year. You can use the same one, just change the year. Super easy. I think I got this from Martha Stewart, and then I just changed it to be a little bit more, she had a couple rows of other things that I didn't think were as important to keep track of. So I just changed that to fit me. And then I just write down when I need to sow it, and then if I did, and that's coincides with, I know I'm going over a lot. I will take questions, I promise. That coincides with what I write on the seed packets themselves. So like I've got, my kale, I write down the date that I'm going to sow, that I can sow it, and the year, because that's the information that I need usually more quickly and is more relevant to me as I'm going through the process of starting my seeds. So that's why that's the most important information I put on the top. Now, sometimes, some of them I grow outside directly. So I might say directly sown outside. And I might put the dates, that 2 different dates. I'll put indoors and outdoors. So, because spinach, I start inside and outside. I don't know if you guys have already started your peas. I already did. Haha. I'm just happy because I never get them in March ever. So I started those, and I'm going to succession plant those. So I'm going to have plant. I already started some, and then another week I'm going to sow some more out there. So that this is just what's easier for me, and I can just grab them and I keep them separate, like flowers with veggies in one area. I don't store them over the winter this way. This is just after I purchase them, and after, like, say, February, when I'm organizing them, I put them in this because I'm going to be using them and looking at them quite a bit. I also create, this is something that is always annoying to me because I love it that on all the seed packets, they always say, in 4 to 6 weeks, start the seeds out. I'm like, 4 to 6 weeks. Okay, how many? And then I have to do it in my head and go backward. And then the next packet is 8 to 10 weeks, start your seedlings indoors, 8 to 10 weeks before your final, the frost date. I'm like, 8 to 10 weeks. Geez, I have to do that in my head. So I just create something like this and I write it out. So I know. This year, I think that my planting out date will be May 15th. Sometimes tomatoes, and sometimes being in New England, you don't want to plant out until the end of May, and that's fine. Write that as your plant out date. But this year I'm being hopeful. I'm saying May 15th, we'll see. And then I just go backward from that, writing out, so that with the packet, when it says 8 to 10 weeks, 10 weeks, okay, I already know that at 10 weeks, or 12 weeks, those peppers, I can start those. And that's the end of, February 20th. So, all right, I know I've gone through quite a bit. But I think, oh my gosh, did we even make it? Oh, who's writing the average last frost date?
You are perfectly on time. There's a few questions I've been trying to answer, some of them.
Yes,
but there
great.
is one that you have a suggested last frost date that you use. Is it that May 15th kind of date?
So I think in Boston, it's not, I think that someone had just posted or put in the thing, it's the 10th or something, but I am pretty successful with my tomatoes every year. And I have friends who are not. And the only difference is that I wait a week. Maybe that has nothing to do with it. And that could be it. But the thing about it is that there are certain things I'll plant out, and I feel confident that they're fine to do that. It's really the weather that depends. So one of the things you have to be careful about is starting your seeds indoors. You're going to run out of space if you start them too soon. You don't want to start your seedlings too soon. Tomatoes, even though, right now it's warm out. I mean, it's getting pretty warm, but you know what? We've had snow sometimes early April, end of May. I know I'm jinxing it, but if you plant those seeds, if you start those seeds too soon inside, you'll run out of space. And then your tomato seedlings will become very leggy and they won't be strong. So err on the side of a few days later than what you think. I know we're all super hopeful and we always think we can plant the stuff earlier than we expect, but I always err on the side of caution just because I'm from New England and I know that the weather is always different. So,
Kim, I don't mean to interrupt, but this
Yeah.
is very important. When is the time to put the seeds down in the ground? Like, when is it time to take it outside and
Yeah.
literally put it in the ground?
so I give my seeds a transition period. It's called hardening off. So
Mhm,
you want to make sure, because if you were to take these seedlings,
mhm,
even though they're cold hardy, that's quite a jump to
mhm.
go from being indoors where it's a consistent temperature and then bring them outside. And now when you bring them outside, they also have to fight off pests. Oh, and they also have to go through a storm and all of these things. You wouldn't be able to do it. So like you gotta transition your seedlings off to you. So I harden off my seedlings and I do it very gradually. So that's why that plastic bin, I wanted to have handles because I take it out the first day for an hour in the shade. Then the next day might be the same thing. And it also depends on weather. You know, if it's super rainy, I'm not taking them out yet until the end. So when you harden your seedlings off, I know that they say it should be 2 weeks. I've never done 2 weeks. If someone has 2 weeks of time to do that, good for them. That's not me. I take about a week. And so my little seedlings need to be up to par and ready to go in a week. So I take them out to 1 hour in the shade. Then the next day is 1 hour in the shade, 1 hour, a little bit of time in the sun, not much. And then gradually it becomes that they are in their environment that they're going to be in, still in their pots for that last night in that area. Now I do sometimes use a row cover. If you guys have row covers, it's like a little blanket for them, but very thin. You can put that over them for that last night that they are out there before you're going to plant them. Then, so like my tomatoes, I get those in as early as I can, but it depends on the weather and if it's damp and cold. So if it's still raining, no, because tomatoes, they want warmth and they don't like to be cold. So, and you also have to make sure that your raised bed or the ground is warm in the soil. So feel the soil. The soil for me, I do a lot of stuff in raised beds because I live in Boston and I don't, I've tested the soil in some areas. The soil's not that great. In other areas of my yard, because it's where I live used to be an apple orchard long time ago. So some of the soil is really great. But in the ground is where I put the tomatoes. So I have to wait. If you're doing them in a garden, a veggie bed, a raised bed, you can get away with starting your seedlings, transplanting your seedlings a week before me because I'm doing it in the ground. A lot of little tricky things about that, but your raised bed, the soil is above the ground and it gets warmer faster. So you guys have a leg up on me there. Are there any more questions? I didn't see. I can't tell if people are still asking questions.
The other question, maybe you can touch on this for the last couple of minutes.
Wait, hold on, I didn't hear you.
Better ask.
Can you say that again? I'm sorry. I didn't hear you, Nicole.
Yeah, sorry, I was speaking probably too fast, but is there a special place you put the seeds while you're hardening them off so that critters don't get to them?
Oh, funny. No, I've never had a problem with critters. I keep my seeds you mean the seeds or the seedlings?
The seedlings, I believe, was the question in the chat.
I'll speak to both though, just to be safe that we cover it. So my seeds, I've never had anything try to get into the seedlings because I put them, when I overwinter them, I put them in plastic containers or glass containers that seal. And I do keep them downstairs in my basement because it's cooler down here and they'll be more viable and they'll last longer. For the seedlings, and the critters outside. So there are some pests that I know are a problem outside. I've never, squirrels might get into the sunflowers. They love sunflower seedlings. So I don't put the sunflower seedlings out until they are more mature because I don't like those when they're older and then more mature, they're not as sweet flavored for them. But I never really have a problem with the other critters going after my other things. There are bunnies. So if you have bunnies, there are definitely bunnies in Boston. So I do keep, it's just 2 feet of the chicken wire fence around where I'm going to have my veggies. In that veggie garden is pretty much my front yard. And so I keep that up year round, and it's just 2 feet of chicken wire. And that, you lock it into the ground with the staples, the big staples that they have, and you secure that into the ground, and they don't jump over it. And I've never had problems. All right. Can't believe we're on time. Last year I was yapping. I see this year I was a little bit faster. I hope that people are able to keep up with me and it's a lot of information, but I encourage you to email me if you have any more questions, or if you have, or even the trustees, they're a great resource for this. They have a lot of online videos too from last year. But I can certainly, if you get that PDF, there's a link to get in touch with me, and just have fun. Don't make this harder than it has to be. That's my main thing. I'm so lucky that I have the space. If you have the space, then you're lucky too, and just try different things every year. Just challenge yourself, grow different stuff every year and just have fun. Like I don't think I've ever eaten okra. I don't have any clue why I'm going to try and grow okra, but I am. I was actually inspired by a child in a garden who was taking the seeds out of the okra pod. And I just thought, wow, that's because he was so into the texture of it and just the feeling the seeds and wanting to save them. And I was like, all right, that's my thing to try next year. So, that's it.
I wanted to thank you for a wonderful talk, and really appreciate all of the information and your enthusiasm. It made for a very informative and fun talk to listen to. So thank you.
Good. Well, that's just have fun. Don't grow stuff that you don't want to grow. Just grow what you want to grow, and you'll love it, and share. That's the best thing I can tell you, is that grow extra and share it with everybody. People, the whole neighborhood, they get seedlings, whether they like it or not. So that's it. But okay, great, good. Well, thank you, everybody.
All right, enjoy the rest of the talks for the day, everybody, and tomorrow.
Yes, and watch them on Zoom. They're going to post them later in the week. The speaker this morning about the oh gosh, I don't even know how to say it. What was her name? I have it here. Her name was, if you can see this, she was so powerful. I think everybody was crying at one point. Kristen Wyman. It was just so inspirational. And the rematriation, she spoke about that. So it was really powerful and very inspiring. So if you can see that, I would. Okay, bye. Happy spring.